Hi everybody, my name is Janele Hoerner and I'm a writer for Catholic Mom. I'm going to do my best to okay, I don't know if I started or not. Anyway, hi, happy Ascension Thursday everybody. My name is Janele Hoerner and I am a writer for Catholic Mom. I am very much a better person behind the scenes. I am not your live on the camera person, so we'll see how this goes a second time around. I do believe, though, that this is such an important topic that I wish to talk to you about today. And what better time is there to speak about our babies that have gone on before us than Ascension Thursday, when we're thinking about Christ rising up and going before us to our new life in heaven. And there are many theologians that debate the topic of miscarriage and what happens to those babies. But the facts that we know are that these babies do have a soul from the moment of conception, and they go on to live in eternal glory. Now, whether that means that they live where they see the beatific vision and they see Christ face to face, or that they are in a place of supreme happiness and joy, that is much to be debated. But I feel in my soul that if I would, or if you would, or if anyone would have carried that baby to term in the Catholic community and they would have baptized that child, then that child would be a part of Christ's church. So, although some miscarriages take place long before we're able to find a body and baptize, those children will be with Christ forever in heaven. So I have 6 children myself, but I also have 4 babies that have gone on before us that we have lost in the very early weeks of pregnancy. And that is not an easy thing by any means, to lose a child. And if you have, I am truly and deeply sorry, because most people in our society are cold and they don't understand how to sympathize, truly sympathize with a person, especially in a time of not understanding the loss and not being able to put themselves in another's shoes, which is very hard. I myself have 2 children with special needs, and I'm constantly immersed by other people who do not know how to that have no ability to understand what it's like day in and day out to have a child with special needs. So miscarriage is very similar to that, because we do not, it is one of those things that unless you experience it, there really is no sympathetic words other than "I'm sorry." It's a hard thing to understand, even for our husbands that go through this process with us, without the knowledge and not the knowledge, but the feeling of a child growing inside your body. It is very hard to explain the loss and the feelings that are accompanied by it, and most women are left wondering why they're caused, or why they're going to go through this process alone. Truly, women who miscarry go through the process alone. There are very few that have good friends that can support them, and if they even choose to tell another person. And I myself, well, we didn't tell anybody, because when I did confide in a few other people, there was no response back. There was no help with the situation. There was no sympathy. There was just, "Oh, okay, well, are you going to try again?" And hearing those words can be so damaging, because it's like, yes, of course, we can try. And in the Catholic community, we're not really trying per se. We're just open to life. So to use words of sympathy, sometimes we speak too quickly and the words come out too fast, and we shouldn't have said what we tried to say. So in this world, we can choose to accept life as a gift or a quiet gift from God. But if the others around us are not in the same mind frame, which most of us have neighbors and relatives that do not share our Catholic faith and do not believe that the soul is important from the moment of conception, and they believe that this loss is just not something to be mourned. But I found some ways that you can mourn, and you can mourn with other people. And by accepting the loss and by finding the grace in the loss, we can all be brought to a better feeling of God's merciful care and love for our lives. So when we miscarried all of our babies before there was a body, before there was really tissue to preserve. And that was very difficult for myself because I wanted to have a burial service. I wanted to have a gravestone. I wanted to have the memorial that felt like it was taken from me. I called our parish priest, and he was very short. We went through various parish priests that were very short and very, very just cold to the whole process. So what I found is I asked for a mass to be said, and although the baby was mentioned in the general intentions, the baby was never mentioned as a miscarriage. It was just the generalized intentions. It was a very hard and difficult and silent mourning process, a mourning process that should be embraced by many loving family members, and yet is not. So if you feel alone in your own household, there are many different ways that you can remember your child and sympathize with yourself, because you are really left to your own devices. And if you have a supportive husband, I am so happy, and that is wonderful. But a lot of us, as supportive as our husbands try to be, they just can't be what we need them to be in the moment. And to ask them to be more than they can be very damaging to the relationship, because they are also mourning in their own particular way. And I think husbands and men, as they age, they grow in wisdom and grace, and they can be better suited to help you after they're older. But young men, it's a difficult process. So when the women feel the changes in their body and she connects with the child and the thoughts of the new life, it is a glorious thing. But as that process ends, the hormones in your body that are released, it's even difficult to put into words, because it's just so painful that some people shut down and some people speak out. And I just want you to know that no matter what you do, you're doing nothing wrong. So the ways that I found to remember our babies that were lost were, we made like a little memorial part in our home, that where we say our prayers every night with our kids. It has the babies' names that we picked out, and they're suspended above where we pray. And it is a time where our children can ask questions and to talk about their siblings that they can now pray for. So it is so important to name your child. And I have found that because we lost so early, we gave the baby a girl and a boy's name, and because we lost multiple times, my husband would pick a girl's name and I would pick a boy's name. And the doctors can be their questions can be very in depth and prying, and they can push for genetic testing. And we just never chose to do any sort of genetic testing. I just wanted it to be up to God and to His eternal plan on what we brought into this world, or what we will hopefully go on to meet in the next. So I hope that you can rejoice in the soul that you have conceived instead of thinking of the baby that was lost. If you embrace the baby as a soul that you created for Christ, one that could never be replicated by another couple, another person. You created that own soul, and with that baby is there, and you can pray to the baby and pray for the baby, and know that you were a process to bring forth new life, which is what we are all called to do. So whether you have one miscarriage or you have 10 miscarriages, I've known of some people that have lost throughout all stages of pregnancy and at birth, and how difficult each of those stages are. There's no one way to mourn. So by naming your baby, you're honoring your baby, and you can pray for your baby. And you should find a way to memorialize your baby, whether that be in your home with a picture. For myself, we never had any ultrasound images of our babies, and that was really difficult. We had the testing that said that we were in fact pregnant. We saw it on our charts, and then to experience that loss. And then for all the women who have had to undergo surgeries, whether that be pushed on by the doctors or elected by the women, that process is extremely painful and heart-wrenching, and it can feel like you're doing something wrong. And I want to assure you that no matter what you choose, whether you choose to help your body pass the miscarriage by medication or surgery, or if you try to do it naturally, no matter what you choose, that's exactly that's exactly okay. The hardest thing for me is when I go to the doctor for a new pregnancy. They will always say at the first appointment that I have 6 children. I have 6 living children, and I have 4 spontaneous abortions. And I want to talk to you about that word, because the words spontaneous abortion can be so damaging. And I really wish that they would redefine those terms, because an abortion, even though it's spontaneous, and the word abortion means to eject, to get rid of in Latin, to eradicate from. And even though the word spontaneous is attached to it, you can also choose to spontaneously abort by that taking medication. And as I said before, that can be so difficult, because with the decision to use medication, we are we almost can feel as if we are choosing to abort. And for all the women who have chosen to abort, I can sympathize with you also, because although I never went through it, I know of people who have, and the pain attached to that decision usually does not come from their own decisions. And that's why I feel with all those people who go to the doctor and get the ultrasounds, and then they witness that there is no heartbeat, but the doctors will immediately offer medication. They will immediately offer procedures. And I've heard of various women who have gone back and the heartbeat is there. And for some reason, it just was not being picked up on that particular Doppler on that particular day. And the baby is fine. So you need to be very careful in the medical community, because the medical community is all about fixing things quickly, and in their minds, they're doing the best for women that they can. So we just need to be very cautious and understanding of what people are in their trying to help us. What they can actually be doing is something very painful for us. So I encourage you to wait and to allow your body to do it naturally at all costs. Um, and I've only ever had to have an operation one time, and that was honestly my most painful miscarriage. That was my third miscarriage, and we were so excited. We had three boys, and we just my husband and I had always wanted a girl, and we were so very excited to find out we were pregnant with this child. And we were going for a walk, and I just started feeling so sick. And we had a little, our youngest boy was just one, and he was just starting to walk. And I remember pushing him through the woods in the stroller on like one of those little paved paths, and I just felt so sick, and I just knew inside me what was happening. It's just one of those gut instincts that you just can't get rid of. And we went for the remainder of the walk, and we went home, and I went into the bathroom and I called the doctor, and they had me come in, and they did an ultrasound, and they saw a spot on one of my tubes. So they were convinced that I had conceived in one of my fallopian tubes, and they told me that I needed to do a laparotomy to just an exploratory surgery to see if the baby truly was in fact in my tubes. And although I had medical background and knowledge, in those moments, your mind is just like rushing of, what can I do? Of course, these doctors are doing what's best for me. Of course, this is what needs to be done. But I don't even remember all of the circumstances surrounding it. I just remember lying in the hospital knowing I was going to go under this surgery, which was my first surgery. And it was just devastating. I remember being wheeled into the operating room and lying on the table, and the nurses are all smiling, and the doctors, and I just am like, I don't understand how you can be, this is just so normal to them. And I was put under, and when I woke up, they told me that the baby was in fact not in my tubes, but they did a full DNC. And I asked if there were any remains, because at that point I was more far along than with my other pregnancies. I was 8 or 9 weeks pregnant, and they said no, it was just blood clots. And I was just devastated, because I had planned to have a service but I was not given the option, and yet I wasn't direct and upfront about it. We didn't go to a Catholic hospital, but it was just the most painful experience, realizing that tissue was just disregarded as medical waste, and it was not preserved in the way that I wish to preserve it. So I found out some things since then, about baptizing miscarriages, and I mean, everyone should know how to perform the baptismal rite on their own. It's very simple and straightforward. You just need water over the body, and you just need to say the words, "I baptize you in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit." And but baptizing just a baby in a bathroom, where you don't really see any remains, can be one of the most painful processes, that you can ever undergo. And I've read numerous stories on this. And although I've never done that, I think it's very important for people to um, to realize that that is so important, because although we have the intention of baptizing our babies, to actually do that, and to perform the rite and to say the words, we don't know, what that will do for the baby's soul in the future. Um, So one of the things that I have found that is comforting is God does not live in the confines of time. Um, he lives in, he has given humans time, but he does not function in time. So the time on earth that we have is so short. And although the days seem very long, it will only be a very short time until I believe we get to meet those babies again. And I believe that I will be reunited with my four that have gone on, whether that is wherever that may be. But I believe I will get to meet them, and that they will get their bodies at the second coming. And that hopefully, if I gain entrance into heaven, I will get to meet them again. Um, so there's also, I know that some priests will say a mass for your baby, and I hope that you have a very understanding priest. And it seems like the younger ones are the ones that are more open to those, facts, because as time and medical science progresses, they understand more about early miscarriages and heartbeats and when they start and all that stuff. And I've recently, in the past year or so, heard about, how you can have burial services with multiple families, and you can have a plot and a gravestone, and that can be done without any remains of the child. And there's no right answer, and when we can conceive again, that is in God's time. And my husband and I have always been very open to life after miscarriage, and it has brought so much joy to realize you are carrying again. And those babies are called, in the world's terms, rainbow babies, and we have four of those. Um, and they truly bring joy to a very painful scenario of miscarriage. So if you choose to tell people how you feel, just please prepare yourself that most people do not have the words to console you. And I hope that you do research and help yourself by reading good spiritual books and learning that with grace you can learn to, embrace this time and offer up your sufferings for your baby that you lost, and just take your time. And the pain never truly goes away. It's always there. And I'm sorry that I am not an on-camera speaker, so I think I'm just going to stick to writing from now on. And I hope I helped a little, but a little bit with all of these thoughts. So I hope you have a good day.